Coming to you live from CBT Studios in the heart of Roseville, California. I'm your host, Matt, and joined with me as always are my two co-hosts,
Andrew
and Roger.
And this is the Cryptid vs. Cryptid podcast. Now play that funky music.
I'm going to be honest, feel kind of left out or left in. I don't know what happened there. But
yeah, neither did I, because I didn't hear either of you.
I didn't hear either of you two, so...
I think hear because it was so loud and it peaked, it just cut out of Discord.
Nice.
Pretty epic.
Alright, well, welcome back, guys. We're here for another episode. Oh, Jesus, fuck. Alright, you can cut it out later.
So, we're back. Over 1,000 downloads. Look
over
forward.
1,100, right?
Yeah. Let me pull up the stats real quick. All time, 1,130 downloads.
Already on the way to 1,200, dude.
Exactly, dude.
I know. Hopefully
Rising.
We can hit it by the end of the year.
Hit 1,200 by the end of the year? I hope so.
Yeah. I think that'd be a good trek for us. 2,000 downloads in 1 year.
Oh, Roger said 1,200.
That's
only 70 more downloads. Okay.
And I said 2,000 by the end of the year.
I think we're going to surpass it. I mean, at the growth we've already started at, what? It's been 6 months, so 2,000? That's reasonable.
I can see us getting to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's the viewers or I guess it's the listeners that keep us alive and keep us doing this.
Yeah, I mean, they hopped on that last episode quick. It's already growing fast.
I know, it's more popular than the one before it, which we love to see.
Even with my shit audio quality, so that's good.
Like I said, that's why they joined it.
If you enjoy the show, share it with some friends. And if you have any suggestions, you can send us an email at cryptidversuscryptid@gmail.com.
That is C-R-Y-P... That's C-R-Y-P-T-I-D vs C-R-Y-P-T-I-D @gmail.com.
This is so much harder to do in separate rooms when it comes to queuing somebody to talk next.
That's true. You don't have the person there to, point to or, look at.
Yeah. So it's like, fuck, I hope they get this. Alright, but let's hop into our topic for today. We have two gargantuan fighters out here.
They're pretty monstrous.
We're looking at the skunk ape of Florida versus the Yeti,
a.k.a.
from the Himalayas.
Abominable Snowman.
a.k.a. Mayo Kongmi.
Are you trying to read the native Himalayan version?
I did. I got a fun fact for it, but we'll get into that later. So,
Alright.
Who do we want to start off with today in our battle of the big feet?
I mean, Skunk Ape's first in the dock, so...
That is true.
Alright, who wants to take Skunk Ape?
I got Skunk Ape.
Alright, take it away.
Reports of a large creature that's seen in heavily forested areas and areas with ranges of hills, and this creature has come to be known as Bigfoot. But what about the lesser-known swamp-dwelling redneck cousin? The skunk ape is a Bigfoot-like creature that has been reported to be seen in the swamps of the Florida for the last few decades. Many of these reports claim that a large, lanky creature is seen to be prowling through the swamps. One researcher named David Shelley came out in the early 2000s with a video showing a skunk ape. He has since put together a research organization. Both of these have been in quotes, by the way, for researcher and research organization, focused on discovering the skunk ape. Since he came first out with his first footprint belonging to it, it's this cryptid with white. Holy shit!
You skipped a line.
I probably did too. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't even know where I was, first came out with his story and then the release of this video. He claims to have seen the skunk ape many times and found footprints belonging to it. Is this cryptid a wild exotic animal that has been exaggerated upon, or is this truly Florida's most infamous cryptid?
Got a question
Alright.
mark there.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, the skunk ape, the redneck cousin of my favorite cryptid.
Yeah, the Floridian Bigfoot.
Any stories? Any fun ones? I got some fun facts and some problems.
The first story I heard when researching this cryptid was the woman coming out of her porch and taking the infamous picture of it, which it kind of looks like a orangutan. That picture, I'm pretty sure they can't edit it down, so I think that's why it's so believable for that picture. It's non-blurry, it's not shaking or anything, and that's why the other guys, the researcher, was pretty, you can't believe his because it's all, blurry and everything.
Yeah, I have a lot of problems with that story, with it being a skunk ape at least. It is interesting though, because, I've seen this one on YouTube videos talking about the skunk ape and whatnot and other cryptids a lot. It's cool that it's a police report, if it actually is, but it really just looks like an orangutan, like you said, which we can get into believability talking about that later. But it definitely is interesting because it comes back multiple nights for the apples.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most infamous story out of any other stories. I don't think, other than the one guy who's got that quote-unquote research organization, he seems to be kind of a bit of a yikes, so.
Yeah, speaking of David, he really takes the cake when it comes to keeping the research on this cryptid alive. He's got his own research organization, shot one of the biggest quote-unquote pieces of evidence, and a lot of this he just keeps pumping it out. Talk believability about that later as well. But I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and they were interviewing this gentleman, and I'm going to butcher his story, but basically him and his buddies are going out at night. Skunk ape is chasing them, and they go to this chick's house to try and hide out. The mom kicks them out of the house, and so they have to hide in this shed from this creature that's trying to get them. He talks about how they got swords to defend themselves from the shed.
What
And
the
then
fuck?
maybe that's just me not listening to the story very well or not recalling it right, but there were swords involved. And then he said that they tried to hunt down the creature after that, and that they got on an ATV or a couple ATVs to get back home, and the creature chased them away and tried to catch up to them while they were on ATVs.
I don't know about that one.
That
First
seems
off, the
pretty
mom kicks
wild.
them out of the house, then they find swords in the shed, and then they get on ATVs that they can just drive away with?
That story is kind of everywhere. Just kind of like Frogman stories, if you ask me.
Bro, Frogman stories are epic.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're everywhere, and that's what kills the believability of it. And that's what we're talking
Plus,
about.
Alright,
Skunk
we'll get into
Ape isn't
believability
wearing
later.
pants, so he's way less cool than the Frogman.
Aside from the story and the picture, the one other main thing is that one drawing that always pops up whenever you search for it.
I don't think I know that one.
Neither do I.
You literally look up skunk ape. It's a black and white drawing.
Now I have to look
Looking
this
it
up.
right now. Okay, going to Google Images. Is it just this weird black and white pencil drawing
Yeah, that's
that has the shaved
shaved eyes.
around the eyes?
Yep.
Ew. That just makes me uncomfortable.
There is a statue
know.
also in Florida. If you look it up, the statue. There's a picture of the statue. It should basically look like Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's the one where it's just his face doesn't have hair on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see it. And he's fat. And he's got no hair around his nipples.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I'm
Nice.
pretty sure that's in the area of where the original video was taken, from David.
There's one more thing. I don't want to dive into it too much right now because it'll come back to believability. But the video he shoots is very long, and it's very reminiscent of the Patterson-Gimlin film. if you guys remember that from the
I have.
first episode when I brought
Yeah,
it up.
I did see the video, and it is very similar.
And my favorite part of the video is the skunk ape is just going around the swamp, you know, doing his thing. And then all of a sudden he just starts dead sprinting. And then I'm pretty sure he trips, like, at the end of it. Or at some point he, like, stumbles. And it's just the funniest shit I've ever seen.
I mean, well, it does make sense that something running away would trip and fall.
Well, are those all the stories and little tidbits that we have to share?
Yeah,
Pretty much,
I don't
yeah.
think there's much else about this cryptid other than what David's trying to bring into the light.
Oh, David. Alright then, let's hop over to everybody's favorite part of the show. Stats, abilities, and characteristics. Starting off with characteristics, I just have down long red fur and a slim body. A lot of the reports and stories I heard talk about how he's like a slimmer build than Bigfoot, and that his hair's more red than Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's pretty unanimous that he's skinnier.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
I think that'll play into maybe mobility a little bit for him, but I think just having a slimmer body will affect the stats in different ways than it did our normal Bigfoot, or it will our competitor. And then moving over to abilities, all I have down is water movement, because you got to imagine he's got to be able to move, not like fully submerged, but like stepping wise, like stepping through water faster than your average cryptid, just because he does live in the swamps and he would have had to adapt to something like that.
That's true. I don't know how much of a big thing that's going to play in the fight, but I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'll play a big factor, but I just want to throw an ability his way.
I mean, an ability is he fucking stinks.
That's true.
That's true.
That's
I'm
what
gonna
gave
put
him the
that
name
down.
of the skunk ape.
Put
Yeah,
down.
apparently his odor is like you smell it from a mile away type thing. That's why they call him the skunk ape.
Super stank. That's his second ability.
I watched you type that. Oh my god.
It's probably... Do you think super stank is more powerful than water movement?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I actually think putting in super stank will have a good effect on the one of the stats once we get to it. But now with that out of the way, let's hop into some stats. What are we thinking for intelligence? Now,
Can we get a review of Bigfoot's intelligence?
yeah, you guys talk a little bit while I pull it up on my phone here.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if this guy's all that intelligent.
I'm
What do
thinking
you
like
think,
a
Carter?
I'm thinking like a 4, gonna be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna go pretty low too, like maybe a 5.
Because he
Because
obviously can't even wash himself. He's
That's
not
true.
not that smart to
Also,
wash.
keep in mind he's a redneck as well.
Oh my
No
God.
offense to our redneck listeners, but I mean, he's drinking a lot of moonshine down there.
Oh my God.
All right.
I mean,
So you
I
wanted
don't
some
know.
Bigfoot intelligence?
yeah, I just to compare.
Bigfoot had an intelligence of 6.
Yeah, I'd say this is pretty even if he's a 4, because he doesn't seem that intelligent anyways.
I'm gonna say 5 because what if the stench is actually just a defense mechanism? Like, I don't know
That's
what's
true.
the predator of this thing, but
Well,
it
no,
could
I
be
think it
like-
would be to keep people away more of, like to scare them away. But
Yeah, someone smells something bad, they're like, oh shit, don't go that way. So that's maybe one of the reasons why he hasn't been seen as much.
Like a
true.
skunk.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's one thing I want to ask you guys. Are we factoring in Bigfoot's abilities into these two? Like his abilities we gave him in the first episode?
Did we give him abilities?
Yeah, we gave him... So this is back before we did characteristics. We have his weight, his height, but we have whistling, which I haven't heard any reports of whistling from this guy. Extreme strength, which I don't think will factor into this guy, which we'll talk about in a second. Small tool usage.
I'm gonna say no on all counts.
yeah, that's what kind of differs from Bigfoot and all these other like branches off of Bigfoot, is that they all have their own thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seemed like that was kind of in Bigfoot's lore and his backstory. He had things that contributed to us giving him those. But this guy, I mean, doesn't shower, he trips over himself. Doesn't seem like the kind to have any of those things.
It seems like we're going with an intelligence of 5, so I don't think he'd have that, or be close to that small tool usage like Bigfoot is.
No, that's what kind of
Yeah.
bumped him up.
I don't know. I'm kind of with Roger on this one now. Maybe a 4.
There we go.
Really, we're gonna go 4, huh?
I
I'm
don't
thinking
know.
4.
It just overall, like, even after you saying that about Bigfoot too, and we gave him a 6, this guy has none of that. We don't even have report. I mean, there was one story I saw that he was using. No, wait, that's our other contender. I'm stupid. So yeah, I don't even know. He can't even use small tools.
And I didn't see, because there's reports of Bigfoots doing yelping or calls to other Bigfoot, and I couldn't find any stories talking about this guy doing any kind of form of communication, not even tree knocking, which is another Bigfoot
Yeah.
sign.
He seems to be kind of a lone wolf, which is
Alright.
probably for the best.
Well, I don't see. Maybe, like, all the skunk apes just can't smell anything, so they don't mind the stench of other skunk apes, but...
That or
They've gotten
gone
used to
nose
it.
blind.
Alright, well, I'm cool with going with a 4 as well. Now let's talk about some power, which will be interesting for this guy compared to other Bigfoot creatures, seeing as he's got the slimmer build.
I'm gonna throw it out there a 7.
7.
I can go with the 7 as well. Because
Yeah.
I know he's slim, but I still think he'd have some power to him. Not as much as Bigfoot, obviously, but he'd still have some. So I think a 7 would be fine.
Yeah, no, I agree with the 7. Just with body being slimmer, he's still going to have that superhuman strength to him, but I definitely don't think it'd be on the level of Bigfoot.
Yeah, we don't have any reports of him throwing trees or, using branches and stuff
I-
like that. But
I
I still think
think-
that this guy...
I think there was
Pack a
reports of him climbing trees, but that might have been the other competitor. I'm not sure.
And I mean, is climbing
I
trees
saw
even
some stuff
really...
about this guy climbing trees, but it's not that big of a feat as I think Matt's probably gonna say.
No, yeah, that's exactly where I was going. And the only other feat I could think of would be taking the apples off a tree, and it doesn't require much strength to do that, so...
Yeah, both of those are human feats. So
So yeah, I think a 7 is pretty fair to this guy. Now, what are we thinking for defense? Now, I could have sworn that I have heard stories that he does have longer fur than your average Bigfoot creature.
I have heard that too, yeah.
So I think
there's
the
also...
longer fur.
I'd also think that his stank would also help for defense too, because, predators or anything wouldn't want to really get near him because of the stench.
Okay, do you think the super stank could inflict some kind of small nausea?
I would think so, yeah.
if it's as bad as like a skunk smell, then probably.
And do you think that would factor into his defensive capabilities at all, or no?
I don't know. I think that's more of a tech because it's in his abilities already. I think it does still give a boost to defense, whatever, however little. But I'm with you guys on the longer fur. I think that even in comparison to like a skunk too, like, oh, that gives him part of his name. He's got long fur. He smells bad. Like,
Do you think a Bigfoot crossbred with a skunk to get the skunk
I
ape?
don't want to think about that. I do.
Alright, so what are we, numerical wise, what are we thinking for a 7? Fuck.
For a 7.
Do we want to draw a comparison from normal Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so for normal Bigfoot, he has a defense of 7.
I'm going to give this guy an 8.
Really?
Yeah, I'll give him an 8 too.
It's kind of a boost. Like, this guy's longer fur for one. We know that we added that in as onto that 7 or onto whatever it was before, and the stench. I think that gives him an 8.
It
And I
kind of
guess even though he's
counteracts
not as-
why his power is like that, but his defense would be a little stronger just because of that sting. Because I feel like that would create a field around him, and if it makes nausea, it's kind of easy for him not to have to worry about things.
I can swing with an 8. What are we thinking for mobility?
Okay, so he
Thinking-
does climb trees, so I would think that would play a factor into mobility as well.
He's
He's
also
also-
slimmer.
And he's got lower water movement, so he's moving through multiple environments at basically the same speed. And going
I still
back
don't
to
think he's
the-
like super fast. That's the difficult.
Yeah, I don't
difficult
think
part
he's
about
that fast. But for mobility for him, I'd probably give him a 7 or an 8.
I was gonna say like 6 or 7, so I'm cool with the 7.
I'm thinking with the slimmer body, he's going to be able to move around quicker. So I think, okay, well, here's the thing. We gave Bigfoot a mobility of 7.
We also did that too because he's just fast in general. Like he's strong, built that way, and so he can move fast. Whereas this guy's speed is a little different. He's kind of more agile.
Well, if he's more agile, wouldn't that bring up his mobility?
That's true. That might have moved
Yeah.
up his mobility to an 8.
I think that's what makes it a 7. But then his base speed, like that still has to play a factor. And I don't think this guy's going much faster than a human.
I don't know. I think he'd be on par with Bigfoot just for base speed. Bigfoot
Really?
takes bigger strides, but this guy's still just as muscular.
And he's almost as tall, too. Or is he as tall?
I think he's pretty close to his tall. I think they're a little
He's a
shorter
little
than your
smaller.
average.
I think both this competitor and the other competitor are like 6 feet, whereas Bigfoot's
Yeah,
7.
there's smaller
Wow.
breeds than the base Bigfoot.
I don't know, but even if you say like, oh, his speed is on par, that's still a 7.
But he'd have better mobility with the smaller body. Or agility, sorry.
Does it merit an extra point though?
I do, plus you have to take in the water movement.
I don't know. 8 seems really high. Like, that's only 2 away from Chupacabra.
Yeah, but it's also whole too. And the leap from 9 to 10 is pretty big.
Also 9 or 8 to 9 is pretty big, too.
All right, I'll concede the 8.
Alright, cool. Let's talk some HP. So, we have to keep in mind he's got the smaller body compared to Bigfoot. And Bigfoot had an 8 for HP.
Now, I'm going to throw out something a little theoretical here. But, I mean, as if this whole show isn't theoretical. But,
It's based on fact.
yeah. If it has this stench, you think there might be a reason for it? And in doing so, I think that maybe he has a pretty low HP, which is the reason why he has to, smell so bad. Is because if he didn't, then he'd die pretty easily. Like, predators would know that he's weak.
So you think the skunk ape breed, or a Bigfoot clan, let's say, developed smaller bodies, and to counteract their smaller bodies, they just smear themselves in shit?
Pretty much. I'm thinking this guy probably has a lower HP threshold.
But how much lower is the question?
A 5?
What was Bigfoot's?
Bigfoot's an 8.
Yeah, I think a 5 or 6 would be good.
I'm more in line with the 6.
What do you think makes him a 6?
Well, he's still big, muscular. I
Yeah.
do like your theory, but I still don't think he's middle of the road HP.
He may be slimmer, but he's still muscular, so he's still got to have some good health on him.
And when they describe as the base 6 foot, I don't think it's like a low 6 foot.
That's true.
I'm thinking 6.
Alright, 6.
Coolio. And let's talk stealth. Now, here's where I think the super stank could really affect him in a negative way.
Yeah,
Because with the super stank, say he's trying to be stealthy, if it's really that bad, any creature around him is going to be able to pick up on the smell, making it harder for the stealth approach for him.
Do we think that helps or hurts his stealth, though? Because maybe
Hurts.
his super stench makes everything go away, so nothing actually sees him.
I mean, it depends on how you take it. It also could cause nausea, which would be a good factor for stealth as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I
And,
was coming
wanting-
in from
And wanting to
Go ahead.
sneak up on him and everything, I don't think he'd be that good in stealth. But for like scaring creatures away because the smell is that bad, or giving them nausea and being able to sneak past them, I think that would be good.
Yeah, it's almost an advantage and a disadvantage.
a double-edged sword, as some would say. Here's
As
my
the
thing
people that
with
were
the-
hiding from him would say.
Yeah. Here's my thing with the, as a plus for keeping them away. While that's true, they'd still be able to pick up on him being there. Even if his main goal was to keep them away to start hiding. They would still know he's there through the scent.
That's true. If you were hunting this thing, it would be a lot easier to find him.
But, I
Alright,
mean,
what were you going to throw out?
I don't know. I I either want to
That's
go
kind of
middle of the
rough.
road with a 5 or go a little bit lower with a 4.
I was gonna say 5.
I was going 5 or 6, but I can stick with a 5.
Alright, cool. Then let's hit it with a 5. Now just to round up the stats before we move on to our next competitor. I gotta say, Skunk Ape kinda escaped better than I thought he would.
Yeah,
got
he's
an
got some pretty good
intelligence.
stats.
They're pretty balanced, not gonna lie.
Intelligence 4, Power 7, Defense 8, Mobility 8, HP 6, Stealth 5. Yeah, I thought he was going to be nerfed pretty heavy compared to Bigfoot, but it's really not that bad, and in some areas he even overtakes his forefather.
Yeah, this guy a stronger contender than maybe initially thought, but man, this fight's gonna be good.
Speaking of the fight, let's move on to our next competitor so we can get there. Let's talk some Yeti. Do you want to take it away, Andrew, or do you want me to have this one?
I'll take it away. While the legendary Bigfoot is bound to the hills and forests of the Americas, he has a distant relative that lives in a not-so-friendly environment. In the Himalayan mountains lives a Bigfoot-like creature that travels the snowy hills and terrorizes the Himalayan people. This creature is known as the Mayo Kangmi, or the Yeti. The story of this creature has been passed down through centuries by Himalayan people and exploded to popularity when people from the west started coming over and spreading tales of the Yeti. One of the first reported stories of Westerners knowing of the Yeti's existence is from Alexander the Great, who demanded to see a Yeti, but was denied, since the creature wouldn't be able to withstand the low altitude. In the year 2011, a finger, taken from a monastery, was said to be from a Yeti, and was taken to a zoo for analysis. After careful analysis, it was determined that this finger belonged to a human, which some assume could have been the finger from a dead monk. Pictures and footprints have been brought to the forefront as evidence for this creature, but many don't care for this kind of proof. Is the Yeti simply a myth that was used as another classic boogeyman story? Or is there a frosty Bigfoot traveling through the snowy landscape of the Himalayas?
So let's get this out of the way first. The Yeti is not white.
No.
Yeah. It's like a, darker...
Dark
brownish?
Dark
like,
gray or like red. I'm
yeah,
pretty sure.
Dark gray, brownish, reddish. It's like a normal creature. It's not like fucking frost white.
Yeah, it's not the Yeti from Monsters, Inc. It's just funny how in media he's portrayed as like the white Bigfoot, but it's nothing like that at all.
No, yeah.
Maybe it's just more kid-friendly.
It would make sense initially. You're like, oh yeah, it blends in with the snow, blah, blah, blah. But this thing's going around forests as well. It's not just, oh, this is happening only on the peaks of mountains. So,
Yeah,
and gray
no.
blends in a lot better with rock anyway.
It's up the mountains. He's just seen in regular plains with snow, in snowy forests. It's not just he's in the pitch snow. It just
Yeah.
makes no sense. Maybe an old Yeti,
Maybe.
not a regular Yeti. So let's talk some stories or fun facts. I don't have any fun facts.
Well, fun fact, there was a footprint spotted about 2 years ago that showed up on the NBC? No, NYBC or something like that. But it showed up and it was like from the army that spotted it.
I'm pretty sure it was... I don't remember. I'm going to look it up. You guys talk a little more.
Well, from what I heard, there was this monastery that had like a chunk of his skull, apparently, or chunk of one of their skulls. And for a long time, people kept on like analyzing the fur and off of it and kept on getting different results. And then finally they realized that it was from some sort of like, I don't know, large four-legged creature, like a moose or something like that. But only very recently. It was like 2007, I think, 2009. But there's a whole bunch of reports like dating back all the way to the 1800s.
Yeah, and then we had the, what was it, Alexander the Great, or... Yeah, who wanted
That's
to
the
see
one that we
Yeti.
brought up, yeah.
So it dates back really, really far. But going back to Roger's fun fact, it was the Indian Army that showed the footprints off on Twitter. And man, they just got flamed on Twitter, bro. I got a couple tweets here. BMC spot footprints in Bombay as well. And it's just a giant hole in the ground. The prints are of only 1 foot in a single file because the Yeti was riding a giant version of a bicycle with shoes for wheels. Like, people just flamed them for all of this. And it's like, damn, bruh, they could have had something, but people are just against believability.
Yeah, not everyone's cut out for the old CVC life.
No, they aren't. They're not true believers.
And then there was another footprint spotted around like 1970 from a famous explorer, and he actually got the photo, and it's right next to his shoe and everything. You can see the size, and that actually it looks like a footprint, not a giant hole.
Yeah,
Is that Don? Is Don Williams? Is that the guy?
I think so, yeah. And so it wasn't as believable like further down, but like back then it was like, oh, an adventurer, they hold their truths because they're famous adventurers, so they've seen some shit.
The craziest thing to me too is that there's like multiple expeditions that were made to find the Yeti.
Oh yeah,
none of them worked, but like
yeah, there was I forget what the name of the people were, but they brought an entire group of people with bloodhounds and everything, and they searched the fucking hills for at least like a month and didn't find anything.
That's so crazy to me.
Alright, I'm gonna delve. It's not really off track, but it is into something else. Have you guys ever heard of the Dyatlov Pass incident?
No.
No, it sounds familiar.
So, back in 1959, there was these group of hikers in Russia that went to trek Death Mountain. Keep in mind, Death Mountain is the name of where they're going to climb.
Yeah.
Well, long story short, they were all found dead. And there were some crazy deaths. One chick died from blunt force trauma to the head, and they found that she had swallowed her tongue. Other people broken bones. Some dude had it looked like he was trying to climb a tree, just cuts everywhere, stick branches in his body. And one of the interesting theories is that the thing that killed them was a Yeti. Just because one of the big things is that the tent was ripped open. Not cut open, just torn open. And the way these people were found were just brutal, blunt force murders.
Oh yeah. That's what it sounds like. Doesn't sound like anything where they were crushed by shit.
I mean, I just thought it was crazy. And I like that theory a little bit, and how it ties into maybe not quite the Yeti we're talking about, because this one's found in Asia.
Well, the Yeti's in Asia.
Is the Dyatlov Pass in Asia?
That one's you're gonna have to look up, but I know that.
Is
most
Russia
of them
in Asia?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Russia's like the biggest part of Asia.
Well, geography was not a good subject for me, so maybe it does bring up the plausibility of this being a Yeti.
Yeah, like this whole thing is happening in like Central Asia, so the mountains from the top of India and China, between them and Russia.
But yeah, I thought that was another little fun thing to tie this to. So yeah, with that out of the way, I think it's any more fun stories before we hop into the serious parts?
No, I think I got all of my stories out of the way.
There's a few more things, but they're all just like, oh, sighting, oh, sighting, oh, sighting. Over the years, more people have cited it. Quite a few documented ones, but nothing really crazy.
Can you guys hear that in the background of my mic?
No.
No.
Okay, it stopped. Alright, well, let's just get this underway. There might be a slight tick in the background audio. Holy fuck, it's going wild.
I mean, are you vaping right now? Because I can hear that. That's
No,
muting your mic a little.
No, my computer, the fan in my computer slipped a little bit, and it's just, there's a wire bumping into it. So
Oof.
there's a slight tick going on right now.
I hear
can
it.
See it popping up in the audio.
I hear it.
And it'll just stop every once in a while. Well, my apologies. It seems we can't make it through an episode recently without something messing up the audio.
Alright, well, this is definitely a lot less terrible than what happened last episode, so.
Yeah, I'll just try and move my mic away and hope that helps a little bit.
Alright.
So let's hop into characteristics, abilities, stats. Wow, it's getting really bad.
I can
hear
hear
a
it
lot
now.
prominent.
Damn. I thought that was your chair for a second, but I realized no, that's what that is.
Yeah. God damn it. We're so far into.
All right.
Okay,
let's
well,
just get
you
going.
guys talk about characteristics and abilities while I try and fix this.
All right. So you wrote down characteristics 200 to 400 pounds, which seems pretty reasonable. But then he wrote down 6 feet. And here, my contention for that is that it seems like unanimously among the groups that have found this thing that it's larger than that. Like, even bigger than the normal Bigfoot.
Have there
So-
been any reports of that? Because from the reports I've got, that's what
Apparently, like,
everyone
it's-
that's felt like seen it has said that it's probably around like 200 to 350. Then
I'm not saying weight-wise, I'm saying height-wise.
oh yeah, and then the height wise, that's what they say. They usually say like 6 foot. And that's what makes them more
like
bulky.
The footprints for this thing are like as big as a freaking pickaxe, dude.
Well, it's Bigfoot. It's a Bigfoot species, so
I know, I get that. I'm just saying to have that big of a foot, you'd have to be pretty large. Like, I'm thinking like 7-8 feet at least.
8 feet. So you're saying even bigger than Bigfoot?
Well, you got to think about what this thing's hunting. Like, what else is living up there? Like bears and stuff. I'm just saying, I think this thing's bigger than Bigfoot. It's got a harsher environment, and it's got a harder group of animals to fight against.
I think the height is good. It's probably more towards 400 pounds, though. I'm thinking that it's a big...
This is a big guy.
Yeah.
This guy's heavy.
Abilities-wise, cold resistance,
Do you think cold resistance or, like, cold nullification?
nullification, probably.
Because, like, I wonder if this guy can even feel the cold at this point,
Probably not. With how big he is, that's probably why he can't even feel the fucking cold. And with all the
That's
fur
true.
on him...
Maybe his bulk helps him. Yeah, his fur and his bulk just helps. Like, he's constantly warm anyway.
I would say there should be a debuff since he can't really go down the mountains because of the elevation that he's been used to. But
Yeah, so maybe we add to... That wouldn't be abilities, though, huh? That would be like a characteristic. It can't leave its designated altitude.
yeah, pretty much.
Because, yeah, you're right. If this thing goes down too low, it's going to die, so...
Other than that, I think those are all like the characteristics and abilities too. There's not much else you can put for him that I don't know of.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything...
Because
I
everything's
wanna- I
gonna
mean-
fill into more of his stats and shit too. I mean, if you want to put an ability, I'm pretty sure he can tree climb too.
I think that's
But-
that's almost something that you can just, like, all Bigfoot can do it. Because they're kind of a branching off of, like, humans who at one point were monkeys. So it's like, I think we can give all Bigfoot that ability. At least the humanoid one.
Also, I think they got confused when hunting it because then it was like, oh yeah, there's bears that can climb up to trees like that in that area.
I think that's probably the most common mistake for this thing is bears.
Alright, I'm back. It was my CPU fan. That should
good
be
thing you fixed it.
And I left the panel open just in case I have to go back and fix it.
All right.
But the shirt is also off because it's getting really hot in here.
It is starting to get pretty hot.
Did you hear like anything we said?
Yeah, I had my headset on the whole time and I agree pretty much with everything. I don't know about the 8 feet thing because a lot of the reports I found were that it averaged 6 feet.
That's what I was saying.
I didn't see anything saying bigger.
And I feel like he would be a little smaller so that his weight can, bulk him up more so that he wouldn't be, like, as cold. Because if he goes taller, then it wouldn't be as cold. Or it would be colder.
It's not going to spread out as much, or it's not going to put as much on his meat on his bones. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. Matt, you got anything to add to abilities?
No, I think cold nullification works. You guys pretty much covered it. Do we think he's able to cast any frost magic?
No.
No.
I had no reports of this guy being able to use any sort of magic.
Oh,
Alright.
I got an
Do
ability.
you think
I
he
got
can
an
make
ability.
snowballs?
Yellow snowballs, bro. Can make yellow snow.
Mm.
Brown,
This is
brown
true.
snow.
Oh god. I mean, they are probably part Neanderthal. But no, I don't really have any actual abilities to add to it. I think we pretty much covered it. So, how about we hop into some stats? Stats like intelligence. Are we thinking he's going to be closer to our normal Bigfoot, higher, lower?
I would think mid-ranged.
I think I'd give him the same. I'd give him a 6.
I would think
Yeah,
a
I don't-
7.
He's more intelligence.
I think he's a little more intelligent. Just with the habitat he's had to live in anyways. Like, yeah, Skunk Ape had to live in the swamp, which is somewhat bad, but this is the Himalayas. He has to know where he can go. He can't go too low, otherwise he'll fucking die.
Yeah, but that could also be intuitive, you know? Like, as he's migrated up to this point, it's things that they've learned over time.
He's also kind of eluded everyone for a long time, too, without any
That's true,
scaring
but
them
you
away.
could... I mean, that might go a little bit more into stealth than anything else.
But also would play somewhat of an intelligence role there.
I mean, then again, if we go off of Matt's story, he did just beat up a bunch of people when they did find him, so...
Are you talking about the Dyatlov Pass?
Yeah.
I mean, he beat the shit out of him, but they didn't find a Yeti.
It seemed like they were sleeping, and then he just fucking destroyed them after.
Mollywopped him.
He jumped them, gang style.
I don't know. I like giving this thing a 6. I don't know if I want to go up to 7. Matt, you have any input?
I like the 6. There's just like no sign. Like, I've never heard anything about calls or yells or knockings from him. No like sign of communication, which is like a big thing to promote an upper brain function or a higher brain function. And you don't see any tools or anything like that.
Oh, that is the one thing I was going to bring up. He has used at least a few reports of him using like a stick or a large wooden object.
So he does have minimal tool knowledge.
Yeah, small tool usage.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at that point, I'm fine with him being base Bigfoot intelligence. Because a detractor for me is the no communication sign. And then what would bring it back up for me is the small tool usage and just having the knowledge of better survival in his environment. And I think that would even him out to back to a Bigfoot intelligence. Although I think the argument could be made that it's more of an instinctual survival factor than it is just a knowledge thing. I don't know. I'm fine with the 6 then. Roger, you able to go down?
Yeah, I'm able to go down after hearing both arguments.
Then let's rock with the 6. Now let's talk some power. He is smaller than your average Bigfoot.
I don't know. I think this thing's also a little bit more meaty as well than the average small Bigfoot. So I almost want to give this guy like a 9. This guy's got a lot of weight behind him.
I don't think he meets the cutoff for 10. Just because he's smaller build, so that will detract from a good amount of the strength. But he would have to have the extra weight to keep warm. I don't know, that's a tough call. Roger?
We're on power, right?
Yeah, we're on power.
I'm thinking like an 8.
An 8?
Yeah.
Why not 9?
Actually, I can go a 9 because we gave the other one an 8, didn't we? Yeah. For this guy, I think more weight's gonna give him more power. I think he'll be a little more muscular too. So I think he would probably be a 9. Honestly, maybe even a 10.
What's giving me the 9 vibes is like I said earlier, what he's going to have to fight to survive in this environment. Like, there's a lot of large animals that are trying to live, at least as far as, like, bears and, like, mountain goats and all that stuff. Like, stuff that can seriously injure something that's not, packing a real wallop.
Here's my question for you, Andrew. What's your detracting point for that 1 point?
Like he said, overall, like, he's going to be a little bit smaller. So if we gave Bigfoot a 10, that's a standard for someone at Bigfoot's size being able to do the feats that, like, apparently Bigfoot's, like, thrown trees, or at least small ones,
Yeah, no.
I don't
when
think we
had
have
Devon-
anything like that over in the Yeti's field yet.
Yeah, no. And, I mean, we had Devon telling his story, and that's an impressive show of strength.
Exactly. I don't think, and there hasn't been anything like, the Yeti's literally launching small trees and boulders at things, but...
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you on the 9 line. because of the same argument. I think just being the smaller size is what really detracts for me, even if he has the extra weight on to keep warm. I think it'd be more of like a fat thing than a muscle kind of weight, like a blubber of sorts.
I'm thinking just overall, like, bigger, kind of built.
He's built different, bro.
I was gonna say it, bro. I was gonna say it.
I mean, he is built vastly different from Bigfoot
And Skunk Ape.
and Skunk Ape. He doesn't smell nearly as bad.
That's true. I doubt if he did smell it that you'd be able to smell it at the altitudes he's at. Alright, so we're going Power 9?
Yeah, I would say Power 9.
I'm on the Power 9 train. How about defense? I think
Power 99?
could have...
I got rid of it.
Okay, but defense. I think it's going to be pretty base of the line for Bigfoot creatures.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think that defense 7 is probably fine.
Yeah, because he doesn't have that exaggerated long fur that you hear about coming from the skunk ape. He's more just got Bigfoot kind of fur.
Yeah, I think a 7 would be pretty good.
This is one of those areas where he doesn't differ too much from his forefather.
Which makes it easy to give him a 7. What about mobility?
Alright, are we playing the fact that he's mobile in the snow? Are we giving him that? Like we did the Wendigo?
So here's my thing. When we hear stories of the Bigfoot, or let's take it for skunk ape, you hear the stories of him running through these environments at high speeds, trudging through them. You don't really hear reports of the Yeti just plowing through the snow. From the reports I've heard, it's more of a walking through the snow.
He's also got a lot more weight on him, which I don't think with his size he'd be able to, like, move as fast too.
Carry himself as quickly.
I think his mobility might even be lower than a base Bigfoot.
I'm thinking 5.
5? Damn.
Yeah, I think out of everything we've just said, and then I think I thought about it more as well. Like, overall, this thing's been spotted pretty much only in either walking or standing position. It's never been like, oh, that thing was flying past us or anything. Like, even the ability for someone to, like, get a chunk of it as well, whether it be the scalp or shoulder, whatever it was. I don't think this thing's very fast.
That also, and, like, if you look at the footprints and everything, it's more of in a walking position, whereas if you're running through snow, it's more of like a line, but this is like one footprint. So I would think I would go with the 5 too. He doesn't seem very fast.
And I will say, while I was trying to find some kind of picture video of the Yeti, I saw one that I'm about 90% sure was fake, but if I take it for fact, it does show one kind of running, but it is struggling to really run through that snow. It's more of just taking big steps than it would be running.
I mean, it's almost like it doesn't even have to be fast, With its environment already, it's hard for this thing to be, hard to get to it. And then it's so powerful, it doesn't need to be able to run away because it can just smack anything that gets too close.
So I think I'm with you guys on the 5 boat for mobility. Let's talk some HP. Now, do you think this would be higher than your average Bigfoot because of the extra weight?
I do.
Just knowing his environment, I think, yeah, it'd be a little higher HP too.
I'm with Roger on that one. I think where it lives as well does factor in a higher HP.
Now, are we thinking a 9?
I'm thinking a 9.
Yeah, I was thinking a 9 too.
Cool, because I was also thinking a 9. Now
Easy
let's
dub.
talk stealth. I think this could just be middle of the road for Bigfoots.
Yeah, I don't think he's too stealthy. You can't be very stealthy in the snow too, because you do leave footprints.
Yeah, that is the thing. A lot of these sightings as well, like, if you go on the actual Wikipedia about the Yeti, there's so many sightings. So many documented sightings, or, findings of footprints or tracks. It does kind of detract a lot from, like, this thing's trying to hide.
And we should take into factor that while we did talk up how it makes more sense for him to have the black fur, when he does have the black fur and he's in a very snowy environment, he's going to stand out like a sore thumb. The best he would be able to pass for in that scenario is like a rock, because he's not blending in with the snow at all. He's got a very hard contrast to the white. So how low are we looking to go?
Honestly,
I
a
think
4.
6. Whoa, jeez.
Damn, vastly different.
I was going with 6 because I think that while it does have these detractors, it also doesn't like smell like the skunk ape. So there's nothing inherently attracting you to it as well. And we gave that thing a 5.
Why so low, Roger?
Just with that footprint thing, it's more of that it'll see where it's going. Whereas the general area where the skunk ape is, you can see right where that thing has been and where it's going. And you can just follow its footprints.
Yeah, it's leaving a pretty
You
heavy
say that.
trail.
You say that, but then again, like, think about the environment this is in. You've had to create expeditions because of how difficult this area is to traverse.
That's true, but you can still follow footprints.
Yeah, but then why has no one ever found this thing?
I don't know, because we're not a Yeti. We're
They
human.
probably lose the trail because of the snowfall after a period of time.
Which I think adds to its stealth.
Okay, I'll move up to a 5.
I've been thinking 5.
I'll go with a 5.
Cool with a 5?
I'll go with a 5.
Now, let's do a general stat roundup before we get into the main event of the show. So since we're already here, let's go with Yeti. Intelligence 6, Power 9, Defense 7, Mobility 5, HP 9, Stealth 5. Also, we have the Cold Nullification ability. And for the Skunk Ape, we have Stats, Intelligence 4, Power 7, Defense 8, Mobility 8, HP 6, Stealth 5. For abilities, we have Water Movement and Super Stank. I think for subclasses of Bigfoot, they do differentiate a good bit between each other.
Yeah, if Bigfoot's just your general, like, night class, I think the skunk ape's definitely a little bit lighter footed. And the Yeti's a little bit more destined for, a colder environment, so...
Yeah, no, I would say the Skunk Ape is more of like a fighter class.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what I would throw the Skunk Ape's way. Or not the Skunk Ape, but the Yeti's way, class-wise, since we haven't done classes
Probably
in a
closer to,
while.
like a cold barbarian, like a Viking or something like that.
I was going to say more of like an orc barbarian, just because of his weight.
Something like that.
Now, this is going to be interesting talking environment, because they're kind of almost polar opposite environments.
And one can't leave its area.
So are we going to go out of the box for this environment?
I think that we can create a scenario in which the Yeti can still fight. I think that it's okay to take the Yeti out of that environment to place it into another one. If it's, this arena that we're creating. Because I think that that's such a small factor in the actual fight itself. Like, that's a big factor in the actual finding of this thing, searching for it, but I don't know if it's a big factor in actually fighting against another cryptid.
Well, what environment-wise are we thinking? I don't know. Because while the swamp is an integral part of the backstory of Skunk Ape, it can still survive in like a forest or something like that. It's not like bound to the swamp. That's just kind of the location that it's spotted most often in.
I would think you'd be able to have the Yeti go down more through altitude. He would just have to be a little more careful. He'd probably have to stay in one area for like a week and then be able to move again more and more down until he got farther down the fucking mountain.
So scenario-wise, are we thinking maybe food runs a little low on the Yeti's mountain? So he's got to start slowly trekking down to find new creatures to hunt. And in his trek down, he finds the Skunk Ape, who is on his trek
He's
back
heading up.
to the swamplands after visiting with his cousin Bigfoot.
I was thinking maybe he's heading up because in this isolated area we've artificially decreased the food sources on both ends, so they're both trying to move to new environments.
I would think a good like area hypothetical would be like you're coming down the Himalayan mountain where it's like just the snow is kind of dying down and you see like snow patches everywhere, but it's still mostly a forest. I think that would probably be a good environment for both of them if we're going that they're moving.
And this is full sunlight because we've got it. I mean, the skunk ape's still got to have at least a warm-ish environment.
Yeah.
So, we have the Yeti, who treks down the mountain in search of food. We have the skunk ape, who's also climbing up the hill to find food to bring back to his cousin Bigfoot's barbecue.
And there's definitely forest here.
Definitely. Forested light snow environment. Is it heavy forest or light forest?
I think heavy forest.
Yeah, heavy forest would probably fit more of the skunk ape as well.
So we have a heavy forest, light snowfall arena. Is it on a slanted hill or a flat land?
I think slanted hill's fine.
Yeah.
Now, before we hop into the main event, as always, this episode is brought to you in part by the Cryptid vs. Cryptid Patreon. What do we got on there, guys?
Wow, you got the after hours that's happening. We didn't do one last week, so that's one less. But this week, we definitely have another after hours.
We have the Cryptid in Caverns, our D&D series, which has not got a second episode, but should at
Hopefully
some point.
we'll
Soon. We're aiming for next month, since it'll be a lighter month on the Cryptid vs. Cryptid podcast.
Yeah, and then we've also got some small clips that'll be added in a compilation for,
You got
like mess ups and stuff.
You got the link to our Discord if Matt hasn't fucked it up again.
I can't fuck it up since I haven't updated it.
Well, that will be updated.
And we also have special Cryptid vs. Cryptid episodes based on holiday cryptids. Only have one up, but that's just because no holiday-based cryptids have really come around since Easter.
Yeah, the holidays had kind of ended before the whole thing started, before the podcast started. So.
But we're soon getting close, and I'm looking forward to some of the creatures that we can talk about once these next few sets of holidays roll in.
Hey, hell yeah, dude. Once Halloween rolls around, shit's gonna be kind of lit.
We're going to have to talk about Krampus.
Oh, all the Christmas ones are good too.
But Halloween's going to have some good ones.
Yeah, hey, head on over to the Cryptid vs. Cryptid Patreon.
Yep.
$3. 1 tier, you get all of that.
The link will be left below in the description of this podcast episode.
I'm pretty sure we also have... Oh, never mind. I'll leave that for the end of the episode.
And with that out of the way, let's hop into today's main event. Skunk Ape versus Yeti. Arena is set. Any thoughts as we go into this?
They both ended up a lot more well-rounded than I initially thought. I think the Yeti's a little bit more powerful, but the Skunk Ape definitely has a little bit more mobility on its side.
Oh, he definitely does.
A lot more
compared
mobility.
to the 8 mobility to the 5. I think he's going to be a little more mobile. I do think Yeti's going in first because he seems more as like a...
He seems like an
angerer.
aggressor.
Yeah. Whereas Skunk Ape's kind of, I'm going to just vibe on out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, going into this, I definitely had Yeti as a solid victor, but it definitely seems more of an even matchup than originally anticipated.
I don't think the water movement's doing much for Skunk Ape in this sense, so that's kind of a null and void. But I was going to say...
That's super stank.
Yeah, so here's my thing. I was like, okay, maybe the Yeti small tool uses breaks off a pretty big branch and he's going in for the swing, but then I'm like, wait a minute, Skunk Ape's got super stank on his side. He can kind of nauseate the guy. Throw him for a loop.
That's how I would think. I think if Yeti's going in for the first punch, he wouldn't really think about the super stank. And so then he would get nauseated, and that's where Skunk Ape is like, alright, well, I'm not getting away from this guy, time to fight, and then throws the first punch at him.
And I definitely think the nauseation thing cancels out any kind of stealth attack against the Skunk Ape.
Yeah, this guy's got almost like an area that he can nullify enemy attacks for a sec, at least.
Yeah, at least the first general attack upon him. So do you think that the Yeti would go for maybe small ranged combat to get in a few easy hits? Because he has small tool usage.
I think he probably...
He's still got some power behind him.
I think it's probably he goes in for a couple strikes, realizes that it's probably not going to work all that close up because this is, he's kind of getting nauseated. He can't really handle it. So maybe the Skunk Ape got in a few blows real quick while he knew he was distracted. Kind of backed off. And then maybe the Yeti starts like throwing stones at him, like mid-size.
Yeah, he does have the higher intelligence and the power to kind of lift that stuff, so I think he would start going for stones and throwing them at him.
Now, to play devil's advocate to the point I just made, do you think with the skunk ape's mobility, he'd be able to dodge a fair amount of these stones?
I think he would, but I think he'd also get hit by a few because, I mean, there's also the difference in intelligence, like Roger said. Like, this thing's got a 4 intelligence, so I think that if the Yeti does a few, like fake outs, a few quick tosses, things to kind of throw him off his game for a sec, I think this guy's still getting clipped a couple times.
Not only is it the lower intelligence that could lead him to be hit, I also think with the Yeti's strength, he's going to be throwing these stones pretty quick, and it'll still be hard for the skunk ape to dodge out of the way. For at least a couple stones.
Yeah. I think the environment definitely helps, though. So, like, if this is heavy forest, he's getting hit by 1 or 2, not 5 or 6.
Now, with Skunk Ape's mobility, I think he'd be able to probably get up on a tree pretty fast. Do you think he'd be able to swing from a tree and try and get on top of the Yeti?
I do think that's pretty plausible, yeah.
I could see a drop attack coming from the skunk ape onto the Yeti.
I think the
It would
drop
definitely
ahead...
help close the distance.
And I think even with the super stank, it'd probably be able to get a few punches in that way too. So where we usually say with the rogue, it'd be more dashing in and out and attacking. I feel like the skunk ape's probably gonna be more like that with his attack style too, because he's definitely not going at the sting, fucking straight on, even with the low intelligence.
Not like he's lacking in power either. He's still got a pretty decently high power.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some weight. But would the punches be able to break through majority of the defense of the Yeti?
Yeti's got 7. Yeah, I would think so. What's the power?
The thing is, though, even if he does break through, a lot of these punches are going to be... this guy's got HP at 9. So this guy can last, whereas the skunk ape can't as much. He does have a little higher defense, but he can take a few. He can take quite a few less blows before he's going down. So,
because when you take skunk apes, the Yeti's power behind his punches, you also have to keep in mind the lower HP of the skunk ape. But he also does have decently high defense as well to counteract that small difference.
It's just that the difference in HP is pretty huge. Like, whereas the difference in defense is 1 point, difference in HP is 4.
And I also want to bring up the fact with small tool usage coming from the Yeti.
The difference in HP is 3.
Oh, 3?
Yeah.
I thought it was 5.
Skunk Ape has 6.
So. That's still 3,
9.
Like I said, as opposed to the 1.
Do you think the Yeti would use some kind of large stick to keep the distance, a small distance advantage against the skunk ape?
I think what happens is the skunk ape goes in for a lot of the grappling hits and a lot of the quick punches because of the super stank. But I think that every time the Yeti has the ability to just fling him off of him or, smack him with something at least.
Yeah, I feel like at some point the Yeti would be able to just have to deal with it, having more of the survival instinct that the Yeti seems to have. I think he'd be more in tune to adapting to whatever scenario there is and being able to grab this skunk ape. And that's kind of like a big factor into all of this.
I think he might bring in the small tool usage later too. He might realize okay, now I know what he's done. He's kind of repeating his attacks now. I'll pick up some sort of small tool and I'll keep him at bay because I know all of his moves.
And his attacks are definitely be a lot more brutal. He lives in such a harsh environment that he doesn't hold back any kind of thing, and he's more of the savage in nature.
I think he'd probably also grab a branch and kind of break it and then probably almost stab it into the skunk ape. Even with the higher defense, I still think he'd be able to have enough power to jab it in the skunk ape and pin him down.
I think a lot of skunk ape's higher damaging moves throughout this fight are going to be the drop attack, where the couple early punches he can get in on the Yeti. He's going to have a difficult time dealing heavy damage.
Yeah, I think the only thing keeping him alive is this super stank, really.
Yeah, that small nausea and maybe dodging a few of the attacks. But if they're close range, it's going to be more difficult.
Yeah, with him going back in and swinging on him and jumping on the Yeti, I think the Yeti would be able to get the upper hand at that point.
I think it'd also
Now,
be
Skunk
able
Ape,
to adapt to the smell over time as well.
yeah, that's what I've been kind of thinking of now. Is that if he's doing all these attacks, I think the Yeti would be able, with how he is, he'd probably be able to get used to it.
Yeah, I think the skunk ape's going to do a lot of pouncing than he is just regular swings. I think that's the big fighting style for him. Just because he's more maneuverable, maybe he's able to get the Yeti off his feet a lot easier.
I think that too, and I also think the skunk ape, it's very dependent on how many like critical hits he's getting in. You know, like how many hits to like the Yeti's temples and stuff like that, or like how many swipes to the back of the neck.
Yeah, here's the thing with the swipe to the back of the neck, though. I mean, he's got no real weapon to use to his advantage.
I'm just thinking about the grappling. You know, a lot of like the he jumps on top type thing, but. I mean, we could also say his intelligence is pretty low, so maybe he doesn't even think about that. Maybe he doesn't think about critical strikes. He's just going blow for blow, you know?
I don't know. I think the Yeti is probably going to pull out on top just because of his more savage nature paired with his strength and just his sheer amount of HP he has. He'll really be able to last long in this fight against the skunk ape.
Yeah. See, this is how I see it playing out. I'm still thinking Eddie's coming out on top, but I think Skunk Ape has the majority of the fight in the first half. But it's as soon as he like jumps on him for 1 second, and then the Yeti's ready for him, grabs him, throws him on the ground, breaks his stick, and kind of stabs him, pins him somewhere. And now that he's used to the stank, he'd probably be able to fucking pummel this thing pretty hard.
And here's another thing about the skunk ape, if I can interject for just a quick second. I believe once we talked about how HP is also tied to stamina.
Yeah.
And so if the skunk ape is going in for a lot of hits right in the first half, he's really going to tire himself out quickly.
That was something I was going to put in too. I think that the skunk ape's going to get tired a lot quicker than the Yeti.
Any other arguments before we consider closing this fight out and choosing a victor?
None that I can think of.
Not really. I think this is kind of Yeti's victory. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I think we give Yeti the win. Skunk Ape definitely put up a better fight. Because going in, I knew he was a lot smaller, and so I thought the Yeti would be able to just destroy him because of it. But he had some unique things going to his side.
He did kind of pull off a lot more than I thought he was going to.
Yeah. This isn't just some, ragdoll slamming around type thing. Hulk and Avengers. This is definitely, a lot more brutal, savage. Yeti's walking away with quite a few scars.
And I'm glad we were able to diverge from just base Bigfoots. Because they both have like their own kind of uniqueness to them.
Yeah.
But with all that said, we welcome the Yeti into the Hall of Victors. And we will see both Skunk Ape and Yeti return in the Cryptid vs. Cryptid mashup and rehash episode 3. How about we talk some believability?
Getting right into it.
I think we should just get right into it. I got a good bit to say.
I know you do.
Believability
How about you
section.
start us off with the skunk ape believability then?
Alright, I just want to say David Shealy is a fucking hoaxer and a piece of garbage. Because, I mean, you saw the video, right, Roger?
Yeah, I saw the video. It didn't look real at all.
It is just way too similar to the Patterson Gimlin film. Like, you have it just casually walking, then you have it look over the shoulder, and then I just start laughing, because at one point it trips, and then it starts dead sprinting, and it's just, it looks like a sad take on the Patterson Gimlin film. And then he opens this research organization, which I'm about 100% sure is just to try and make money off of all of this. And then he keeps coming out with evidence like foot casting, which I've seen stuff and heard people talk about it, and the foot castings are proven just to be alligator footprints. And this guy's just full of shit.
Yeah, this is a real sad imitation of the original Bigfoot stuff.
I think maybe at one point he might have seen something, and then I think he's upset because he didn't see any more, and so he just created this little tale for himself.
I think you're right too. He probably just wants money out of it as well.
I'm not believing that it's a skunk ape. I think that because if you look at the original picture from that lady, it looks more of like an orangutan. And so everyone was thinking that it was an orangutan that escaped from the zoo.
100% agree with you on that. Every time I'm watching a YouTube video and this thing pops up, it's so obviously just looks like an orangutan that escaped. Like just an exotic pet that got loose.
Yeah. And so you can't really see it with the dark. I mean, maybe that's why it's a skunk ape, because it may as well just be an orangutan that is growing up in its that habitat.
I like the idea of skunk ape, and I definitely think there's a possibility. I think it could have just been a sect of Bigfoot that inhabits this region, but I think a lot of the stories we hear are just bullshit. Andrew?
I don't believe it at all. And the fact that this guy is a mad hoaxer just makes me believe it less than zero. So
Yeah, that's the problem with people that want to see it, and so they make this shit up. It just hurts the cause for people that, like me and Roger, that believe in this shit. It just really kills it for people that you try and persuade or are looking into it.
yeah, I can agree with that. It's harder to look into it as an outsider when there's a lot of like initially going into it. There's a lot of stuff that's like, well, this is just fake. This guy's full of shit, you know.
And I think another big factor that detracts from it is he keeps getting all this proof and all of these sightings, and at some point you have so much of it that it's just, at this point, it's completely unbelievable.
Yeah, you're like, that's not how this works. At this point, you would have found the thing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he basically lives with the damn thing. He sees it so much. Any closing thoughts on the skunk ape?
No, the only believability thing I have is that it's probably just an orangutan. I don't really think it's a skunk ape. It's probably just an orangutan that escaped from the zoo.
I still think it could be a sect of Bigfoot, though. Small sect. But I think the possibility of it being an orangutan is higher.
All right, how do we feel about the Yeti?
Why don't you kick us off with it, since you're right under me in Discord?
I'm almost inclined to believe in the Yeti. I'll say that much. Almost inclined. Other than the
Would
fact
you
that
say
there's
that
no
it's
proof.
the closest one that you've believed in so far?
I don't know. We've had quite a few cryptids. I think the chupacabra was probably, honestly, the closest I've ever been to believing into something like that. But I don't think I believe in the Yeti.
Alright, any big detractors for you, besides it just being a cryptid?
The fact that a lot of the sightings were, like, discounted as other animals. And, like, the big thing for me was, like, oh, like, the piece of the scalp that they found, and then they kept on not being able to analyze exactly what it was, but then technology caught up to it, so. But I think a big thing for me is that there's no solid, I'm a see it to believe it guy, you know? I want to be able to literally touch the Yeti, so.
That'll be the day.
That will be the day.
I'd love to watch
That'll be the
that
day I
happen.
actually believe in a cryptid.
That'd also be the day you die.
Yeah.
Roger, any thoughts?
Yeah, I can't really believe it. It's definitely way more believable than skunk ape to me. But the stories that I've heard of, like, the scalp, the finger, the fake footprints from the fucking Indian army, it just kind of detracts from it for me. And so it's like you said with the skunk ape, it's just you just ruin it.
Yeah, no, I'm in the boat. I don't think it's the Himalayans. You know, obviously they're not trying to hoax. This is part of their culture. I think they genuinely believed it. But with the science proving it's fake, and there's just no real good pieces of evidence to really back up this creature, and I think it's really hard to get a cryptid that's so similar to Bigfoot, but on the other side of the world, in a completely different environment.
I will say the story that made me believe it the most was probably that, what is it, the Diavolo Passage or whatever.
Dyatlov Pass.
Yeah, that's probably what makes me believe it a little more, just because that incident just seems bizarre to me. But yeah, every other story kind of detracts from it.
Well, while we're on the topic of Dyatlov Pass, I mean, it's such an interesting story, and if you're listening to the podcast and you've never heard of it, definitely go check it out. It's very mysterious. It's probably one of my favorite unsolved cases in history. And maybe one day, if we ever branch the podcast off to something else.
Cool, man. I would love if we branched off the podcast to Unsolved Mysteries. Oh, I'm into that shit.
Oh, that'd be fucking dope.
That would be awesome. But that's a discussion for another day.
That's a discussion for us, not on the podcast.
But I think that closes it out. This has not been a very believable episode for the Cryptids.
But a very interesting matchup, I will say that much.
Now, do we want to give a little teaser as to what's to come this next month on Cryptid versus Cryptid?
Oh, I was going to shout out that we have a Reddit and a Twitter, but that's not very exciting.
So before we cover that, are we going to share what's next to come?
I don't know. Do you want to?
I think it's a good idea since it's such a far step from what we usually do.
That's true.
Why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so the next 2 episodes, this next month is going to be a special episode, a special couple episodes coming from us. Because, as we've talked about in the last 2 episodes, the podcast has hit over 1,000 downloads. And we wanted to kind of do some special episodes for our regular viewers who have supported us all the way through. We're going to do some special episodes for these next 2. It's going to be the Cryptid versus Cryptid special month.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a long-time listener, we hope you enjoy it. If you're new and you listen to it, it's not what we regularly do. This is just a treat for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we hit a milestone, 1,000 downloads. We wanted to celebrate with something, so it's a whole month of, 1,000 download celebration.
This is a very big milestone for us, too. Like, to think we were, 60 downloads about 6 months ago? Kind of whack.
Extremely. We're definitely going to talk more about it, but it is a big deal for us. So, with that said, if you have anything special to say, you got any questions to ask, please send us an email. We will happily discuss it, shout you out, and talk about it in the next episode.
Cryptid versus Cryptid at gmail.com. Please, we love fan interaction. It's our favorite.
CRYPTID VS CRYPTID at gmail.com. But I think that brings us to an end.
Yeah,
how about we shout some stuff out?
We have the Reddit.
No, we don't.
No, we don't have the Reddit. We have the Twitter.
Disregard that.
Cryptid versus. I mean, Matt could cut that out.
It'll come soon enough.
Yeah. Once we get a bigger following, that's right. All right. But Cryptid versus the Twitter, that's very inactive currently. There hasn't been much following on that yet, but it'll happen. 1,000 downloads, baby. We're rising.
CRYPTID VS on Twitter.
What else?
And if you like what we do here, share the podcast. We appreciate it.
Yeah, talk
I'm
to
trying
everyone.
really hard. I haven't checked iTunes in a very long time.
Bro,
So I don't know if
there
we
could
have any
be
reviews.
5-star reviews that I've been skipping out on. What the hell?
I was about to say, let's leave a 5-star review for the podcast, please. We will read them out.
I haven't shouted that out yet. Yeah, I have to read out any 5-star reviews that you guys leave. So, leave a 5-star. I've also given you the cheat code to leaving a 5-star review if you didn't listen to us on iTunes.
Yeah, my computer finally decided to work. We did get another 5-star rating, but no reviews yet.
Dang.
So we're sitting at a lonely 5 stars with no reviews on the episodes.
Damn. Who's the name of the guy? Or gal?
I don't know.
Or
I
person.
don't get to see that part.
Ah, rip. I can't even
Only
shout them
people
out.
that leave reviews.
Come on, leave reviews, guys.
And I think that brings us to a close
Mhm.
on this episode of Cryptid vs. Cryptid.
All right. See you guys later.
See you.
Later.